The ocean murmurs, like a secret no one dares to repeat. A boat drifts aimlessly through fog, its motor dead, its hull whispering against the waves. Somewhere in that endless gray, someone is missing. Someone the town swears they knew, yet none can describe with certainty. The docks groan as wind slips through ropes and forgotten nets, and the air tastes of salt and guilt. A single voicemail echoes across the quiet. If anything happens, it's under the water. Her voice trembles, cut short by static. By dawn, the search begins, and the sea becomes a mirror, reflecting every lie, every fear, every silent confession yet to come. Morning bleeds gray over the harbor. The town speaks in lowered voices, their words drifting like ash over the water. Everyone knows what Thomas said, and no one believes it. The sea that once fed them now feels cursed. The detective walks the shoreline where seagulls circle like restless spirits, each wave folding over a secret it refuses to release. The missing woman's name is written on every face, every gesture. But the sound of the confession still echoes, faint and false, like a prayer whispered by someone who doesn't believe in it. Inside the interrogation room, truth and lies share the same air. The detective replays Thomas's confession, again and again, listening not to what he said, but what he did. Each pause, each hesitation, feels staged. A performance crafted for someone unseen. The deputy stands silent in the doorway, watching the tape spin. They both know what's missing, no motive, no proof, no body. Yet the town sleeps easier believing it's over. The detective doesn't. She's seen cases close too neatly before. The sea fog rolls inland that evening, swallowing the streets and muting the lights. The detective studies the case file in the cafe at the edge of town. Notes, photographs, coordinates, pieces that don't fit but refuse to be ignored. A fisherman enters, dripping seawater, muttering about lights beneath the waves. The air grows heavy with a strange hum, like distant thunder. She looks toward the dark window and sees her own reflection layered over the ocean outside. For a heartbeat, there's another face beside hers, then nothing. By nightfall, the town is silent except for the hum of the ocean and the whisper of power lines swaying in the wind. The detective stands at the docks, her coat flaring behind her, the water black as ink. The confession plays again in her head, looping endlessly. But this time she hears something new beneath Thomas's words. Another sound, faint, buried in static. She replays it. A distant voice, a woman's voice. Just one word before the line cuts. Wait. The detective's breath catches. The sea answers with a single ripple. The town exhales relief it hasn't earned. The confession has wrapped everything neatly, but neat stories rot quickest. The detective stares at the signed report, the ink still drying, and feels the hollowness of victory. She replays the recording again, slowing the seconds before the confession. Beneath the silence, a faint scrape, a door, a whisper, something alive behind the words. The deputy calls it background noise. She calls it truth trying to breathe. Outside, church bells ring for closure that hasn't come. Rumors spread like oil across water. Thick, fast, impossible to clean. Some say Thomas confessed to protect someone. Others say the sea keeps the truth because it's easier than people do. The detective walks past the townsfolk's half smiles, feeling their eyes follow her every step. Justice has become fear, and she's the only one who won't applaud. She turns toward the harbor, where gulls circle above the same empty tide. The ocean's calm feels staged, too, as if it's rehearsing a lie. That evening, the detective revisits the taped confession. She slows it, filters it, isolates frequencies. Beneath Thomas's voice lies another, faint, metallic, overlapping. The words can't be made out, but the tone is female. The sound punches through her exhaustion. It's not Clara's voice she recognizes, his fear. The deputy knocks on the door, asking if she's all right. She doesn't answer. She rewinds again. Behind the static, a breath, soft, trembling, real. The dead don't breathe. At the marina, rain begins again. Heavy, rhythmic, like footsteps on hollow ground. The detective stands beneath the shelter of the boathouse, listening to it strike the tin roof. Somewhere deeper inside, a door creaks open. The deputy's voice calls her name, but she doesn't answer. She follows the sound into darkness. The smell of salt and iron grows stronger. Then her flashlight flickers across something. Rope, torn netting, a stain that's too dark to be rust. The storm swallows the next sound completely. By midnight, the detective's theory takes shape. The confession wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a cover. She confronts the deputy in the quiet of the empty office, the clock marking each breath between them. He insists Thomas acted alone. She counters with the voice, the evidence, the fear she saw in his eyes at the dock. His silence lasts too long. Then he says something that chills her more than denial ever could. You weren't supposed to hear that. The fluorescent light flickers once, twice, and dies. The town sleeps uneasily as rain gives way to a heavy stillness. The detective returns to the evidence room before dawn, unable to shake the echo of the deputy's final words. She opens the box marked Jensen, Clara, and freezes. The pendant, gone. The recording, erased. Files rearranged like someone wanted her to see what's missing. The silence feels orchestrated. A hum of old lights above her swells and fades. She doesn't need proof to know she's being watched. Someone else still guards the truth. Morning creeps in pale and hollow. The detective drives toward the shoreline, the radio whispering static between every word. Somewhere under the noise, she hears it again. The same faint breath that shouldn't exist. She slows the car near the cliffs where Clara once vanished. The fog seems thicker here, the world smaller. She steps out, letting the sea wind tear through her hair. The water stretches forever, but in the distance, something metallic catches the light, glinting once, then gone. Back at her motel, she plays the audio file on repeat. The static now feels alive, like it's breathing in sync with her. Between each distorted pulse, she begins to hear a second sound. Not words, but rhythm. 3 knocks, a pause. 3 more. It's a code. She writes it down, tracing patterns over the map pinned to her wall. Every mark points toward the old dock. The same dock where the confession began. She grips her coat, her heart matching the knocks. Night sinks in early. The detective and the reporter return to the dock where it began. The same scent of diesel and brine, the same wind whispering across ropes. The boards creak beneath their steps. The reporter carries her old camera, filming quietly, breathing shallowly. The detective crouches near the same post where the footprint once was. This time, the wood is split open, a small compartment hidden inside, just big enough to fit a drive or a locket. Empty. The sea exhales again, mocking her persistence. When she returns to her car, she finds the windshield streaked with mud. A single word scrawled through it. Stop. The engine won't turn. She sits in silence, staring through the message into the mist beyond. The phone on the seat beside her vibrates. No number. She answers. Static, then breathing. Then that voice again. Don't look for me. The call ends. The sea roars in response as if laughing. Somewhere behind her, gravel crunches under unseen footsteps. She doesn't turn around. The storm hits without warning. Wind thrashes through the streets, and the sea howls like something alive. The detective drives through flooded roads toward the shoreline, her thoughts drowning in static. The evidence is gone, but the truth feels closer than ever, like it's calling her through the roar. The tide has returned everything it once swallowed, and tonight it might return Clara too. Lightning flashes over the waves, revealing something metallic lodged in the sand. The ocean never forgets, It only waits for the right time to speak. The waves recede long enough for them to see it clearly. An object, torn and rusted, bearing faint letters under layers of salt and mud. The detective brushes it clean, revealing part of a nameplate. It's not from Clara's research boat. It's older. The deputy steps closer, his breath catching. The reporter begins to film, her voice breaking. The tide surges forward again, swallowing the find before they can stop it. The detective stares into the foam. She swears she heard a voice say her name. After the storm, the town lies quiet. No lights, no power, only the steady pulse of dripping water from rooftops. The detective sits inside the station, soaked to the bone, staring at the soaked floor. The deputy hasn't spoken since the beach. The reporter reviews her footage by lantern, frame by frame, until she gasps. In one lightning flash just behind the metal debris, a shape, human, pale, unmoving. The detective grabs the laptop. The pause button freezes a figure reaching toward the camera from beneath the water. The detective drives back toward the coast, urgency pounding in her chest. The deputy pleads for her to stop, saying some truths should stay buried. She ignores him. The wind carries the sound of crashing waves and something else, a cry, faint but human. When they reach the shore, the metal fragments are gone, but the sand is disturbed. The footprints lead into the water. The reporter lifts her camera, shaking. A faint silhouette stands waist deep in the tide. The detective steps forward, whispering a name. The figure disappears as the wave breaks, leaving only the rippling water behind. The detective falls to her knees, her flashlight flickering out. The deputy stares into the sea, whispering Clara's name over and over. The reporter's camera continues to record the empty surf until the battery dies. When the detective finally looks up, something glints on the sand where the figure stood. The missing pendant, resting dry as bone. She picks it up. Inside, a photo of Clara smiling beside the deputy. The wind howls. The tide creeps closer. Morning comes slow and gray. The detective hasn't slept. The pendant sits on the table before her, the image inside etched into her mind. Clara, smiling beside the deputy. The case was never about proof. It was about protection. The deputy enters, soaked, trembling, claiming he can explain. His voice breaks before it begins. The detective doesn't move, doesn't blink. The sea outside pounds against the docks like a heartbeat refusing to die. He finally whispers, "I didn't kill her, but I helped her disappear." He tells her everything in fragments. Clara had uncovered something during her research, illegal dumping beneath the cliffs, chemicals leaking into the water. She'd planned to expose it. The deputy admits he was ordered to keep her quiet, just until the company cleaned up the site. But she found out he was involved. That night, she vanished before he could warn her. The detective listens, frozen between rage and disbelief. Outside, thunder rolls again. The ocean knows the story too. They drive to the cliffs together. The air smells of oil and rain. The deputy points to the rocks below. That's where Clara recorded her last message, where she claimed to have proof. The detective climbs down first, her flashlight cutting through mist. The deputy hesitates at the edge. His voice cracks. "She trusted me." The detective looks up, meeting his eyes with silence. Somewhere beneath their feet, the waves thunder against the hidden tunnels. Secrets have weight. They sink. Inside the cavern beneath the cliffs, time feels suspended. The flashlight beams slice through damp air, illuminating rusted barrels marked with faded hazard symbols. The detective moves closer, running her fingers over one label, the same company name from Clara's files. The deputy stumbles, muttering that they were told it was safe. The reporter finds a waterproof case wedged between rocks. Inside, a small recorder coated in salt. The detective hits play. Clara's voice fills the dark, If you're hearing this, he's lying. The truth cracks the air like lightning. The deputy's knees buckle as the recording plays, Clara's voice trembling. He said I'd protect me. The detective steps closer, voice low but sharp. And you did? He shakes his head, eyes full of tears. I buried the proof, not her. Outside, thunder crashes over the sea. The detective looks toward the mouth of the cave, the tide rising, waves creeping closer. The recorder ends with a scream cut short. Then, silence. The deputy finally whispers, "She's still down here." The storm passes, but the tide doesn't recede. The detective wakes to the smell of salt and oil clinging to her hands. She dreams of Clara's voice, the recorder still echoing in her mind. The deputy sits outside the motel, drenched and motionless, eyes hollow. The reporter's footage circulates quietly through encrypted servers, the town unaware of what's coming. By noon, divers are on site. The detective stands at the cliff's edge, heart pounding. The sea begins to reveal its gray. Hours pass. One diver surfaces, gasping, shouting over the wind. They've found the entrance to a tunnel system. Man-made, reinforced, hidden beneath layers of sand and coral. The detective's pulse quickens. The deputy mutters something about old dumping routes, now collapsed. She orders lights lowered into the dark water. The beam reveals shapes, rusted barrels, twisted metal, and something else. A human silhouette tangled in the debris, hair waving gently like seaweed. The deputy turns away, unable to look. The body is lifted to the surface under gray clouds. The detective watches in silence, face blank, pulse screaming. The deputy sinks to his knees. The reporter lowers her camera, whispering a prayer. But as the figure breaks the waterline, the truth strikes harder than the cold wind. It's not Clara. It's someone else. Another woman. Another missing name. The detective steadies herself against the railing. The ocean has more secrets than graves. The deputy begins to sob, not for guilt, but for what this means. The recovered remains date back years. The detective pours through cold case, files scattered across the floor, tracing each one that matches the coastline. Every missing woman had ties to the same company, every case quietly closed by the same deputy. The pieces locked together with terrifying ease. She looks up from the files, eyes meeting his. His silence confirms everything. The reporter's recording light clicks on. The deputy whispers, "You think the sea took her, but Clara never drowned." Night falls again. The detective follows the coordinates through the fog, guided only by the flashing buoy lights offshore. She rows a small boat into the open black, the deputy beside her, silent. The reporter's camera records from the pier, red light faint in the distance. Waves rise and fall, rhythm steady like a breath. Then, the hull hits metal. A sunken structure lurks beneath, a research station long erased from records. The deputy looks down, tears mixing with rain. "She's still in there," he says. The sea exhales, almost like a sigh. The ocean is calm for the first time in weeks, as if waiting for a confession of its own. The detective's boat drifts above the coordinates, the deputy silent beside her. The water glows faintly from below, a ghostly shimmer of the forgotten research station. She drops a waterproof light and watches it descend into darkness. The beam lands on a glass window half buried in silt. Inside, a single chair and a tangle of wires. The camera feed on the deck flickers to life. Someone had been recording from beneath. They dive. The world turns silent, but for the rush of bubbles and the low hum of memory. The detective's flashlight slices through darkness, revealing broken monitors and decayed research notes scattered across the submerged floor. A cracked camera blinks once, still holding power. When she wipes the silt away from the lens, her reflection stares back, but beside it, faintly, another face. Clara's. Her hair floats like a halo, her mouth caught mid-word. forever recording what no one wanted found. They recover the camera, surfacing into rainless silence. The detective plays the footage immediately, hands trembling. The screen fills with Clara's image, alive, terrified, whispering through static. They said the water would hide it. They were wrong. The deputy's face flashes behind her, younger, desperate. The detective stares at him now, soaked and hollow. "You said she was gone." He nods once, voice breaking. "She was until tonight. The horizon glows with dawn. The ocean glistens like an unblinking eye." By sunrise, word spreads across the coast. The footage leaks online, shared by the reporter before authorities arrive. It exposes years of cover-ups, names long erased, and a town built on silence. The deputy turns himself in before the detective can speak. She watches from the pier as he's taken away, eyes hollow, no anger left. The ocean stretches calm and endless again, pretending innocence. The detective drops the pendant into the tide. It sinks without a ripple, as though the water has been waiting for it all along. Weeks later, the town pretends peace has returned. The detective drives past the docks, window down, listening to the steady hush of the waves. The sea smells different now, lighter, almost clean. She parks by the shore where Clara's name is carved into a new memorial plaque. Her phone buzzes. No caller ID. She answers, expecting silence. A single breath. Then Clara's voice, soft, certain, alive. "You found the wrong body." The line cuts. The ocean hums in response, whispering the same word, again and again. "Wait."